Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mindset Monday, another edition of Business Chat. I am happy to be here today, and I'm happy that you are tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or whether you are streaming later. My name is Carrie Davis Duffy from Carrie Davis Consulting, and I am bringing to you today the topic called Metrics Matter. And for those of you that have followed me, know that I've talked about benchmarks for years. And when I talk about metrics, I'm talking about benchmarks or KPIs or goals or whatever it is that you want to call them. But this is a super important topic, even though to some it might seem totally basic. To me, it's one of the number one key drivers for successful businesses in general, whether it's the salon industry or whether it is a different industry. And there are two main reasons why I feel called to talk about this topic today. One is that I have been asked by many owners out there, what are the new benchmarks? Have they changed? That's one reason. And the other reason that I feel called to talk about this topic is because I hear a lot of coaches out there talking about how benchmarks are outdated and salon owners that are holding you to standards of benchmarks are abusive, and crazy talk about businesses that hold standards to a higher level and that track their business based on metrics. So for those two reasons, and those have been coming up a lot lately, and it's just so shocking to me because, I don't know, coming from a business owner for almost 33 years that sold my business for a good amount of money. Why? Because it was so profitable. You can sell any business for a good amount of money when it's profitable because the sale price is based on profit. And how we have always run our business was based on metrics, based on being able to look at where we are in comparison to where we need to be in order to be a profitable company. So when I hear these two reasons, one, since COVID, which I know was a disruptor, COVID was a disruptor for both good and bad, I think. And that wasn't that long ago. And I think that some owners are still reeling from how to get back to pre-COVID numbers or operate their business in a way that makes sense with some of the positive changes, but eliminating some of the negative habits that we've gotten ourselves into. So the question is, should we change the benchmarks? And that was the number one reason why it came. The number two reason is I'm so tired of hearing people out there talking about how benchmarks don't matter and don't work for a salon that holds your paycheck or holds that standard to specific benchmarks. Ridiculous. Now, there's a caveat there. So let me answer the number one question I've been hearing right now is, have benchmarks changed? Not really. And I'm going to go over them today. They haven't really changed. What has changed is how expensive it is to run your business now. So that has changed. I think we all saw with shipping and delivery and all of that kind of stuff. We saw that during COVID, all those prices went up. And the prices continue to go up, whether it's tariff driven now or pandemic a couple years ago, prices are going up. So should some benchmarks change? Maybe. We're going to talk about that. That second reason, which is some coaches out there talking about that benchmarks don't matter, they matter. But what matters most are the behaviors that we take away that are connected to those benchmarks to improve the numbers. So the metric, the number is just a number. What we do with that number and the behavior that we take on or adopt to change it for the better is the real thing that matters. The number is just feedback to say, am I or am I not doing the thing that I should be doing in order to move the needle, right? But that's why they're so important, because how would you know what behavior to take on if you don't know where you're landing with your numbers? So metrics matter because they drive behaviors which drive the metric. You can't have one without the other. I mean, if you are, let's say, driving across country and you get a map, you put your MapQuest on and it's not working, and you just start driving and you hope that you're going from west to east or east to west or north to south, whichever way you're going to be going. And you're doing it based on a feeling. And then all of a sudden, your navigator, maps comes back on and it's like you're going in the completely wrong direction if you want to get to this place. But you've been going on, well, I feel like I'm going in the right direction. I feel like my internal compass is working. I don't know how many times people had said to me, I feel like I'm really busy and I feel like I'm doing better than I was doing last year. And we actually pull the numbers and lo and behold, they weren't. And so I just want to warn people against running their business based on a feeling. And let's look at the facts that matter. Okay. Let's look at what the metrics I feel should be to run a successful, profitable, and sustainable business. Again, they haven't really changed a lot, but what does need to keep changing are the behaviors in order to move that number up. I feel like the last couple of years that one of the struggles I've been hearing from owners is that ever since business changed a few years ago, they've had a hard time adding back their complimentary services, getting people to work on time, getting people to work the hours that they need them to work. And I think that was a function of altering how we showed up as leaders during a really funky period of time called a pandemic. And I think we got to a point where we were like, we don't know how to do this. So we're going to minimize contact by letting go of some complimentary services that maybe we were offering that gave added touch. We just need our staff because so many people moved around. They moved where they were living. They moved salons. They got out of the industry. So we started hiring people based on whether they had a pulse as opposed to whether they were good for our business or not. So some things maybe changed for the better, like how we clean our spaces. That I think changed for the better. And maybe creating more flexibility for our team and looking at things differently. Those things changed for the better. But like I said earlier, some things that changed were expenses completely changed, right? Our expenses jumped up. And we need to rein back in our businesses and step up as leaders instead of asking the question, have the benchmarks changed and lowered based on what businesses are going through? No, we need to keep rising. We need to keep elevating everything about our business, including our leadership skills. Your leadership skills are going to be the thing that drives your team to reach higher. If you're reaching higher and you know how to communicate that higher place to where they can see it for themselves and they want to reach there themselves, you're going to see a huge difference in your business. So let's talk about some metrics that matter, that have mattered to me, that were my total go-tos when I had my businesses that we tracked daily, weekly, monthly. Some are sales driven, some are expense driven. And let me just go through them real quick. So RPCT, retail per client ticket. You know, we talk about retail being a lost art in the salons. I don't know that it ever was an art because hairdressers for some reason kept looking at their clients leaving with retail as a function of being some salesperson, as opposed to a function of helping your client achieve the look that they want at home. I mean, I don't know where we got so off track. I guess if I really think about it, maybe where we got so off track is when leaders did embrace this benchmark theory. They kept coaching their team about a number instead of how to care for the customer in a way that has them wanting to come back. Let that drop for a minute. Are you coaching your team on numbers, or are we coaching our team on the behaviors that will create more success behaviors that create more profit, that create higher sales? So when we look at RPCT, or retail per client ticket, we look at that metric to say, am I delivering education to my clients? Am I giving an amazing consultation to my clients? Does my staff know how to execute a great consultation and follow-up? If that number is low, along with the percentage of guest purchasing, you may have, or your team may have, an issue communicating with their clients around what they need to use at home in order to maintain the look that they agreed to have once they were in. Service per service ticket. This is giving us feedback on whether our clients are getting one or two services. Are they getting just a cut? Are they getting a cut and a color? What exactly are our clients getting, and what are they getting versus what do they need that they may not even know they need? Explaining to our clients what we offer, that's the behavior that goes with service per service ticket. Productivity and Prebook. This is not a new metric. This metric, I think, expands way far and beyond our business. And I'm going to share with you a few businesses and what metrics they count, because we are not the only industry that should be counting and tracking our benchmarks. Productivity and Prebook. Those should be our Prebook should be at least at 70 to 80%. If it's a new client, our Prebook should probably be at 50%. Are you tracking both? New clients are the hardest clients to keep. So we keep advertising for new clients, but we can't even keep the ones that we have. So if you can start tracking new client Prebook to see if those new clients are being retained and coming in every 6 weeks, you're going to have a really good indication on what your new guest retention is going to be. So productivity is another big one. Productivity is 80 to 85% is the goal. Are enough clients coming in the door, and are we retaining enough clients? If these numbers are low, what behaviors are they telling us? That are we not following a service cycle that needs to be followed to elevate this guest experience where they can't wait to come back in? What behaviors do you have in place to give great service? A question for you to ask. Retention for clients and retention for staff. If your staff retention is below 70% year over year, we have to look at what is going on with our relationships. We've known now, study after study, that people leave people. They don't leave companies. They leave their bosses usually. So why are people feeling they need to seek out other places? So again, wouldn't that feedback as a metric be important to you to say, hey, for me as a leader, what am I doing or not doing that could have my team feel more connected to me and to the company and to our mission and to what we're doing? These are things that we need to be looking at. Client retention is the same thing. If we can't keep our client retention up, 70% of our return clients coming back, 50% at least of new clients returning, we have to look at what we are not doing. Every number turns into a doing, a behavior. Add-on services. This is a metric that I think if we can start calculating, this isn't one that has been so popular or widespread, but if you can start calculating an add-on service metric, which 50% of all clients should have an add-on service, not that they put on when they schedule, but what they actually get once they're in the salon, whether it's a conditioning treatment, a keratin straightening treatment, little add-on extensions, things that maybe don't take more than, anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes that you can add on. Definitely trackable. I say if 50% of your clients are receiving an add-on service same day, you're doing really well. And that should tell you your staff is having great conversations with their clients. We talked about amount of clients purchasing retail already. Rent as a percentage of total sales. So our rent percentage should be trending around 8%. Once we start getting higher than that, it's eating up our profit. So the only way to offset your rent is by being busier, by having higher sales, because our rent is a percentage of our overall sales dollars. Our payroll, this is a big one. If your payroll is trending over 45% of your service dollars, we need to take a look at that. How do we offset that? That doesn't automatically mean that we just go in and lower payroll. There are a lot of things that we could be doing in order to offset that number. But if that number is above 45 to 48%, you're going to start seeing a lower profit margin for sure. Advertising and marketing should be anywhere from 2 to 3% of your overall sales, and back bar should be anywhere from 6%, maybe 7 or below. This number should be very managed with your team. And if you're not using a budget to do your ordering, if you need help with that, reach out. Your budget to do your ordering is going to be the behavior that you utilize in order to keep that number in check. Some of the benchmarks that other industries use, this isn't just us talking about what metrics matter for us, but when we talk about retail stores, one of the metrics they look at is sales per square foot. When we're building a business, building a salon, we should be looking at production per square foot. How much are we going to be producing per square foot of every square foot that we're in? That was something that I don't know how I got on that train early on, but I became obsessed with that. And every time we built a business, I'd say, how much production per square foot? Because rent in California is so high, let alone in San Diego. So we had to be able to have the maximum amount of people in a certain space in order to offset the rent that was coming out. I mean, here in California, and maybe it's like this on the East Coast too, but we're seeing for 2,000 square feet, we're seeing, paying anywhere from $11,000 to $15,000 for 2,000 square feet. So you have to think about how much can I be producing per square foot? That's great if you can pay that, if you're in an area that's giving you visibility and that you can have a high production per square foot. Revenue per provider is a benchmark that law firms and medical practices use. That's one of their benchmarks. Average order and we have billable utilization for healthcare and consulting. We have appointment cancellation rate for healthcare. We have return visit and client retention rates for gym and vet clinics. Production or product to service sales ratio for optometry. So when I'm talking about metrics and numbers, every industry are using metrics and benchmarks for their specific industry to be able to say, are we maximizing our sales and are we minimizing our expenses in order to carve out a profit? This isn't new to our industry, but in order for us to be successful and change the numbers that we see, should we feel they need changing, we have to take on the behaviors that actually change the number. Okay. I got a few action steps for you here. First of all, I want to tell you that you're not alone if you have been just coaching numbers for years and years. I think that with the benchmark movement coming into our industry, what there wasn't enough of is connecting the benchmark to the behavior or the metric, the number, the KPI to what it takes. So it might be interesting for you to get together with your team at a salon celebration or a team meeting and write down what are the metrics for your company. All right. And then have your team come up with what behaviors are going to move that number. And once you get a graph or a chart of what behaviors are going to move these numbers, you can start changing the dialogue with your team around their behaviors. And you can look at the numbers as something that gives you feedback. And then you can start engaging in these meaningful conversations around what do I have to do? A behavior is something I can hear you say or see you do. So what is it that I can do in order to move the needle? It's the needle gets moved in the doing, not just in the tracking. It's two parts. Let me track and get feedback on how I've been doing. And then let me create a behavior so that I can then see if what I do moves the needle. All right. So I say the biggest takeaway from today, if I were going to say, you know what, let's have you guys go away and do one big thing, it would be to create a team meeting, salon celebration that connects your behaviors with the numbers that you want to see moving, and do your homework ahead of time so you can share with your team, where are you in relationship to those metrics? And if we focused on one or two of them, which one would give us the biggest bang for our buck? And I think it could be interesting for you too. Like I went in and I Googled, I chatted, GPT chatted, what are the metrics in different industries? And I think it might be interesting for you to share that with your team so that they know that this isn't something random you're just pulling out of your, it's something that this is how we do business. We have to look at where are we in relationship to where I need to be profitable, sustainable, have a happy, healthy culture. So I hope that that has helped you today in some way, shape, or form to have a takeaway and stop coaching the number. Use the number just as feedback to start coaching. What do we need to do differently to elevate our level of care and rise up? If you need any help or additional support, don't hesitate to reach out. I am here. I think I'll be back in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. Listen, if you go to Carrie Davis Consulting on YouTube, you will see all of these videos. I think I have 50 or more on here. They're all free. Make sure to subscribe, share them with your friends, and let me know if there's anything that I can help you with. I hope that you have an amazing beginning of June. Have a great week, guys. Bye.